Gentlemen, hey, hey, hey. Welcome to the debut show of the new and improved Missouri Rhino Watch. My name is Jason Amberson. I'm here with the Rhino Hunter, Joshua Lehman.
How's it going, guys?
We're here to have a good time. We're both a little nervous. We're all a little nervous in the room tonight, but it doesn't matter. It's because we want it to be a great show, and we want you guys to really enjoy it. So if anything, we blooper or whatever, it'll be fun. Either way, it's going to be fun. So what we're doing tonight, I got a list of topics here that I'd like to go over with you real quick. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into how we even got here. And then we're going to talk about the Missouri Swamp key players. Then we're going to talk about the Missouri champions, the ones that have your back and the ones that are actually doing what we mandated them to do when we elected them as our servant officials. And then we're also going to talk about the speaker face-off that's coming up January 8th, next Wednesday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
January 8th,
D-Day.
they're going to be electing a new Speaker of the House for the Missouri representatives. And then we are going to let you know what you can do to get involved. And just like we are, just like we did, how we all got together. So, and that's what we're going to talk about to start off here. So, Josh, how did we get here?
Right on. So before we actually get into the slides, when Josh is getting those queued up, Jay Willie is getting those queued up for us. Shout out to him, by the way, Jay Willie, who doesn't want to be known exactly for who he is.
Yeah.
Maybe he will later, I don't know. But he is our producer, and God love him because we couldn't do this without you, brother, so thank you.
It's Joshua Williams.
So how all three of us actually met each other was for the fact that we were listening to Bannon, right? Really, yeah. Josh was listening to Bannon. I heard it once, and then that guy came on talking about the precinct committee. And then we all of a sudden showed up at our local Platte County Central Committee, met some amazing people. Shout out to our founders group here in Platte County. And we've grown from there. So we've been at this, 3 years now, going on 3 years. And so just getting involved with listening to that show, showing up, and then starting to ask ourselves, what is it that we can do to get involved? Let us hear. Yeah,
Josh Williams reached out to me because I'm pretty vocal on my political views, and I've spent some time in Facebook jail, and he reached out and was like, "Hey man, let's get involved." And I'm like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I'd been to a committee meeting before, so he said, "Let's start going to the Republican committee, the county committee," and I said, "Okay." Let's do that, and guys, it's once a month. It's once a month. If there's anything that if you really want to get involved and you just want to do something, what can I do?
Go there.
That's
the first place to start.
That's the first place.
Not even the fact that it's like that. It is a very minimal commitment. But the point is that's where all the power is.
Right.
A lot of us don't. We've learned, right? And so when I say a lot of us don't understand or whatever, it's because we've been through this, right?
We had no idea.
The power resides in the base, and the base is at the committee levels. The reason why that guy, Dan, I forget his name, Dan something, but he was the one on Bannon talking about the precinct project and getting involved, and it was like 75% of committee seats, precinct committee seats. There's, depending on where you are in Missouri, it's committee seats, but in the nation, 75% were vacant, right?
Not even filled.
And then in some
Empty
of them,
seats.
some of the instances here in Missouri, there's a couple of committees that meet quarterly,
It's
right? They don't even get together because it's like so backwoods, and they don't even know.
To touch on that point, how important that is. So you go to the committee, and you have committee chairman, and then you have the committee members, and they're voted in. Each county, each precinct has a seat,
correct,
for each precinct, correct?
Yep.
And
a man and a woman.
So
a man
that's
and a
what that
woman
means.
for each.
So 75% of those seats, guys, aren't even filled.
And
you don't even have to be elected. All you got to do is go put your name on the ballot,
Yep.
and you can be elected to a seat.
And if you have nobody running against you, you automatically get it. And what's crazy is those seats, you running for this office, right? You running for this office yourself, then you become one of those people who actually vote to decide who the RNC chair is at the very end, the Republican National Committee. It starts literally at the county level. From the county, you elect your leadership. From the leadership, They go through the congressional and the senatorial districts, which are just smaller committees from that committee. And then you have your state committee man and committee woman that comes out of your county. And then from there, the state party decides who the leadership's going to be. That leadership position is actually the one who can say who can or can't run as a Republican, which is huge. We have no accountability. And if we get this area, right, then we will have every bit of accountability we want. And then from there, too, the state level on up, when we go through our caucuses, right, that's when we decide who is our RNC or Republican National Committee man and committee woman representing us on the national stage, plus our presidential electors and so on. So just going and getting involved in the precinct level, at the base level, literally is the foundational building blocks to who is going to run the party.
Once a month, you go and you show up and you talk about stuff that is...
Well, we want you to get, I mean, it's true. Well, that's what we started doing, just showing up. But we're going to train you guys to get involved, to understand how the law works, understand how government works, understand what your power is. A lot of these people show up to these places and they don't understand they are empowered. They don't understand they're representatives of their constituency, of the Republican Party in their subdistrict. They have been hired, or they've been chosen, elected, in order to represent them the best they can. And a lot of the times you just show up and they pat you on the head because you don't know any better. We should be in there using those committees the same way as the legislature uses their General Assembly. We're getting together, getting resolutions passed, getting actions passed, deciding where you want your money to go and so on. There's a lot of power. And the legacy GOP, they do not want you to know that. They don't like resolutions. They don't mean anything anymore, you know, and they don't like people pushing back against the establishment. But that's why we're here, is because it's gone too far. We see what's happening all over the country. We see what's happening all over the world, right? And we know that we are in a pivotal time, a crucial time. And if we don't have real change and soon, we're going to lose everything.
Well, and I would venture to say that I know you're asking yourself, how did we get here? How did the country get here? We all asking ourselves that. Well, 75% of the seats in the counties are empty. People are not getting involved. Yeah. And it's not hard to go, because what'll happen, but I don't even want to scare you with that, because it's really, you will, when you go once a month, you will get involved.
Yep. You'll see what's happening.
You'll get to meet so many like-minded people, and you will
also get to meet your RINOs.
That's right. And
that's who you need to be replacing, because if you're not there, they're the ones running the party.
And then you'll know. And I got to admit, guys, and humbly, I will admit, I don't know. I really don't. I'm here with Josh to be the sounding board. I'm here to represent you guys and to hear what he has to say, because I love him to pieces, and he's extremely smart and knowledgeable about this stuff, and so engaged in it. He's just immersed in it, and it's an honor to be here with him and to be representing you guys as kind of the unknowledgeable one. You know, I know some stuff, and I know how I feel about a lot of things.
You definitely know what's wrong. You just haven't been able to articulate it because you haven't had the education on it. And
and I'm busy. And I work,
right.
and you've had an incredible opportunity for the last several years that didn't look like a blessing.
Right.
It was a blessing in disguise.
Right.
But through your free time, we'll just put it
that's
out.
Right. Through my paranoid free time. Yeah.
Through your free time, and now he's got a wonderful job. But so. That's kind of how we got here, and that's the base of it. But then what happened over that last was it 20? I thought it was 2020 when we started going.
No, because I didn't get involved until after January 6th.
Okay,
2021.
Right. So
it was September or something like that, maybe. Yeah. Anyways,
so we started going. And then we started getting involved. He got elected to
vice
chair.
Yeah.
And man, that's a whole other story. We'll probably do a whole show on that one.
I don't know if we want to.
I think we should, just so you guys can see the kind of things and the shenanigans that go on.
I mean, we definitely will discuss it, but I don't know if I'm going to devote a whole show to talking about. That was a fun time, right? That was a lot of fun.
It was cool, and maybe we'll talk.
It was actually one of the best blessings that ever happened. But
Yeah, it's a huge story, and maybe we'll talk about it with you guys in private if you run into us sometime. But
we'll probably discuss it here and there in pieces. But
it was a sight to behold.
Yeah.
Let me just put it that way.
Let's just say, like, let's say it resulted in, like, so we were going for a vice chair or vote, right?
Right.
Because unfortunately our previous chair passed away, God bless her. Instead of me assuming the role, they decided, the RINO establishment decided, well, we're going to do something.
If we're
we
gonna,
have to challenge
If
this.
we're going to go that far into it, let's talk about how we lost the first chair. He passed away as well, and his wife was appointed.
Right, yeah.
to
Well,
the
she was the
chair.
vice chair, and she went right into afterwards. And then I was the vice chair, and then crazy enough, she passed away the next year. And instead of me assuming the role, then it was challenged.
Like she did.
And then it was a challenge. It was a character assassination the entire time, which resulted in half of the committee resigning.
Yeah.
And that's actually the crew that we have going on here. Anyways, this is long. This is way off topic. Josh, bring us over into, Jay Willie, bring us over into our slides for the night. Okay, so like Jason was talking about, right? We're going into these topics: how we got here, Swamp Key players, Missouri champions, speaker face-off, okay, and call to action. Now, when we say how we got here, yes, me and Jason did talk about the fact that we were the ones, or our personal story, but this personal story culminates in a grassroots movement all the way across the state. And so this is what's something very exciting to explain to you guys. So what happened was we moved from how we got here. So we moved from the caucuses. So during the previous legislative session before the caucuses happened this year in 2024, the legislature decided to get rid of the preferential presidential primary, okay? And all that was a non-binding primary where we voted on who we wanted to be our president, right? As far as the primaries for our party. Well, what they did is they got rid of it because it wasn't binding. They said it was wasting a lot of money, so they scrapped it. Now, my personal opinion is that they scrapped it because they thought that they were going to have the opportunity to basically do some hidden hand kind of stuff. If we're not voting on the primary, if we're not doing the things that we need to do, then they'll just be able to do it through their caucus. Well, lo and behold, we showed up to the caucus. When I say we, I mean we the people, right? So we were going to the county caucuses is how it started, right? So every county in the state, there's 114 counties plus St. Louis City, so technically 115 caucuses, right? And that's at the base level. And anyone can show up there, right? If you pledge that you are a Republican, you can show up, you can caucus. And all this really is a bunch of people getting together and making decisions on who they want to represent them as delegates to the next level, right? So it goes from county, and then from county it goes to congressional district, and then from congressional district it then goes into the statewide convention. So we showed up at our county convention, and when we showed up at our county convention, we didn't even have a delegate slate, right? You're supposed to have a slate, and slate means just your team, right? Here's your chosen people.
And so, but the county did have their slate.
Yes, they did. They did. And so they knew that we were coming to cause some trouble, is what they thought, right? You know?
I don't think they even saw it like that. That's the status quo. This is the way they've done it in the past.
Yes,
because
agreed.
people
That's
aren't
true.
involved.
That's true.
Because people weren't getting involved. So we talked about it the night before, and the process is for the group of
make a
everybody
decision,
that shows up to vote
Yep.
on a slate.
You're supposed to get 30 minutes. So shout out to Eric Holmes, who's now in Florida, but a great friend of ours. He was the one who did the research on what needed to be done, what the rules were. So to Amerson's credit, he said, let's have a meeting the night before. So 7 of us, just 7 people, got on a Zoom call. And we were like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. Right.
Yeah.
And but then Eric said, well, the rules say that that each side has to have 30 minutes to discuss and come up with their own slate. Right. Yeah. Well, it was obviously a very, very mass margin for Trump and so on. So they go there and we stand up and we say, hey, we don't have a slate, but the rules say we have time to do it. And so, guys, we literally called people off of the bleachers. We were in a middle school gymnasium, and we literally stood up. It was one of the most exciting experiences ever, right?
It was really, really
stood
cool.
Up, we're like, Who wants to step up? It's your time. It's your opportunity to do something instead of letting the establishment do everything and whatnot. We created the slate on the floor. They were standing. They were standing in line. We needed 30 people. I didn't even know 30 people. I was like, where are we going to find 30 people?
Yes.
We needed 15
delegates
and 15 alternates.
Yeah.
We found them all. We actually had more than we needed. We wrote them down on the floor the entire time. The chair of the committee keeps coming over, or the caucus, and it's like, are you guys done? Are you going to get the numbers? I was like, do you see all these people? Just give us the time to write their names down.
We all signed the sheets, and we turned it in, and we had our 30 people.
And then we won, I think, a 2-1 margin.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
Because the people know that it's people just like you that want to be involved.
Yes, you're the people we're trying to get in touch with.
They showed up.
They showed up. And because they showed up, we all showed up. Because
all
we
showed up.
We ended up running our caucus. And then we went from there, and we went down to the convention. Or no, I'm sorry, the congressional caucus.
Right.
So you have the 115 caucuses.
This year.
And then you go to the district one. And so we're District 6, good old do-nothing Sam Graves. And so we go to the congressional district. We decide the day before, or a couple days before, hey, we'll try a slate. And we just tried one. We were nowhere near as organized because these are multiple different counties coming together.
And I'd have to say that if we would have gotten together
easy,
like we did before, but we were just still kind of in shock that we were able to be so involved in our county level. And but if we would have had a meeting the night before and called on several of the people that
if we would have been more organized, I think the way we are now,
a tiny bit more organized,
because we barely lost that.
Barely lost.
And then what was so eye-opening is when the people were coming out of the caucus, shaking my hand because I stood up and was the one to read the thing or whatever, right? They were like, hey, thank you for giving us a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a profound thing to understand, that everything has been the way they do it every single time.
Right.
This is how we do things.
Status quo.
And now people are like, oh, we have a choice. Well, unbeknownst to us, this was happening all over the state.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So we show up at the statewide convention down in Springfield, okay? So this is 115 counties, 114 plus St. Louis City, coming together, okay, for the at-large convention. I think there was like 900 people there, something like that.
Yes, yeah. 800 and some.
The majority, the grassroots was such a majority. It was unbelievable. And then, of course, immediately the establishment was jumping into their tricks. Right? And so when they're doing their tricks, there's the credentialing committee, right? And what that committee does is they actually go through and they just verify that everybody's who they say they are.
Right.
But see, what happened is we were verified at the county, we were verified at the congressional district. And so the verification at the state should have been a breeze to go through. In fact, when we showed up, when me and Josh showed up, we got there and they were like, yeah, here's your badge.
Yeah.
Like we just picked up our badge and went in. Show me your ID. We showed our ID. We picked up our badge and went in. So what was hard about that, right? So all you had to do is check off a freaking checklist to say they were there.
Yeah.
They stalled for over 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
3.5 hours. And a lot of people think they were trying to whip the votes in order to, because they knew that Sophia Shore, shout out to her,
right,
champion, good Lord.
Amazing.
She was running for the chair. And we had organized, and I say we were a part of that organization.
What did she do? The night before, she had a Zoom call, and she had talked to a bunch of people. There was a little group that got together. A lot of us went down the night before, and we were all sitting down in the lobby and chatting and having a good time. And there was some people that went around and said, hey, get on this call at 7:30 or whatever time it was, and Sophie's going to get on and talk about what we're going to do tomorrow. And so we got on that call, and she said, this is what we're going to do. One of the first orders of business is to elect the chair who's going to run the convention throughout the rest of the day. And but with that little bit of organization,
right,
we were able to spread that word and say, hey, you're here to make a change, right? Mm-hmm. You want to make change. So that's what we're going to do. And we have an incredible girl, Sophie Shore. She was prepared too, because she had her own parliamentarian, because she knew they would play these BS games, because she's been in the legislature as an LA and a staffer and so on. So they understand. And I'm so excited about the younger people in Jeff City that are rising up, because they are absolute fighters. Yeah, she was 25 years old, and
incredible.
Just so incredibly articulate and knowledgeable.
Strong. She was a leader.
Wonderful.
Let's put it this way. We had 3 or 4 different men getting up on stage from the establishment, and they were literally yelling at us.
Yeah.
Hey, you just calm down. Like, are you going to get up there? You're going to get up there and bully us, right? Like, this guy thought he was the bee's knees, right? So anyways, we won that. They tried to run, they'll do everything procedural to try and stop you. They tried to do a secret ballot. They were like, oh, it's inconclusive. The vote is inconclusive because we did a voice vote. And they're like, we're gonna have to tend towards a secret ballot. Well, we went crazy, right? Because we knew a secret ballot was the way that you changed or cheat, the way that you strong arm people to do what you want, right? Because you may have made deals.
I couldn't believe they even had the gall to do that.
Of course they did. What else were they gonna do?
Of all those people, those
I know. Well, we booed them.
Or, I can't remember exactly.
800 plus people, almost 900 people.
Almost 900 people that were there because we love our country. It was the biggest convention they'd ever had. We're there to make a change, and they had the gall to say, "Oh, we don't like this vote. We don't agree that."
No, they said it's inconclusive.
Inconclusive
because it was a voice vote.
Public vote. Yeah.
Well, when we booed and hissed to the point where they were like, okay, don't be so mean. Well, sorry, we didn't want you to cheat us out of what we worked so hard for. Because if we would have lost the chair, we would have never worked on the platform or anything else. So then we went to the vote. Well, the vote was over 100 people in favor of Sophie compared to the other, right? So that's not very inconclusive. But anyways, so we took the chair. After we took the chair, Josh, if you pop up this next slide, I want to show it. So this is when Sophie took the gavel. Man, I got this clip. We're making a little piece out of this eventually, but what a fantastic victory feeling, right? Yeah. Madam Speaker, you may take the gavel. Everybody went crazy, right? Because that was a victory for us. All it takes is people like that to rise up, right, and to be actual leaders. Yeah. So these are the things we won, okay? We won the convention chair with Sophia. We won the statewide delegate slate, so all the people that are representing us at the national convention, as far as this at large, were all the grassroots, the truly Trump grassroots slate, because the legacy ones who were anti-Trump tried to pretend like they were pro-Trump all of a sudden. Right. Which way is the wind blowing? So we won that. Then we also won our presidential electors, which were huge, right? And then we won the Republican National Committee man and committee woman seats. So we have two fantastic individuals representing us at the national level for the next few years, right? So we totally destroyed them. Now, what happened after that? Well, we were at the end. So remember, they stalled for a good 3.5, maybe 4 hours at the beginning. Yeah, and then they started pushing. I don't know if this is completely factual, and I hate to say it like that and didn't even say it. I think we had a cutoff time at like 8 p.m. or something like that we had to be out of there by. We should have been out way earlier, right? Yeah. So we're getting to the very end. There were people that were going around saying, hey, it's getting late, cars might get towed, whatever. And it was just like slowly leaving. There was this couple from St. Louis area, right? And so we're down in Springfield. They're in their late 70s, 78 or something like that. They stayed as late as they could, but she had to leave to get her husband home because his legs were hurting so bad he needed to get to his medicine because he never expected to be there that long. So they ran people off with their chicanery procedural crap. Ben Baker and Dan Stacy were the guys who worked together the entire time to literally filibuster us the entire time, right? So at the very end, now we have brought in 115 different organized caucuses, amendments to our platform. So our platform, our Missouri Republican platform, is the actual basis that you can go to and reference and say, this is what a Republican is. And so based on all the things with the COVID nonsense and the grooming in schools, everything that we had faced in the past presidency, right? We had come up with some of the strongest amendments to our platform. We would have honestly been one of the strongest platforms in the entire country.
Yeah, and what were some of those, Josh? I mean, I remember one for sure was no foreigners being able to purchase property in Missouri.
Right, at all.
That was one of them.
It was conscientious exemptions for bodily autonomy. In other words, I don't have to have a religious exemption to say I don't want something in my private, personal body. I can do it for whatever reason I want. It was about our children and grooming. It was making a more emphatic statement about what it meant to be pro-life. Right? I mean, there's so many different things. Yeah. So we get all the way down to the very end, right? And in the rules of procedure, there's this thing called quorum, right? And quorum means that you have enough people, it's usually 50% plus one, to do business because you're representing the whole. Well, we had already gone through all of these different amendments. None of them were getting cast aside. They were all being accepted by the whole. And then we finally got down to the end, and what happens?
Meaning we voted on Each and every one of them.
All the way down to the very
I don't want to simplify
end.
this too much, guys, because it was a process.
It was like a 4-hour process.
And we went through every single amendment. People got to get up and give their pros about it. People got to get up and give their cons about it. And eventually we would vote on each and every single one of them. There was like 18 or
there was something like that. There was
26.
There was a very, very large amount of them.
There was a lot of them, and we went through every single one of them. We all got to get up. Whoever wanted to get up and say something got to speak their piece about each and every.
They didn't let us do that. Remember at the congressional level, what they did at this is another trick they did at the congressional level. They were saying, "Oh, we're not even going to vote on those amendments. It's no big deal. We just send them down. There's no issue. We just send them down to the committee." Well, what they knew is that the committee was going to ignore them and write. So the committee was supposed to take the amendments. The platform committee was supposed to take the amendments given from all the different states or all the different counties, and then they were supposed to recreate a platform that spoke to what we put in there. They ignored it. They ignored it all. So then when they brought back this garbage platform that had nothing really that we wanted in it, we rejected it. Well, guess what? If we wouldn't have won the chair, we wouldn't have known that we had the right to do that. Right? So they beat us by the knowledge that they know that we don't understand, right? Whatever. So they call a quorum call at the very end of the night. That kills every single one of the bills that we had not finalized, or the amendments.
Right.
And we lose our platform. So we revert back to the old platform because we rejected the crappy one they tried to give us, and then they sabotaged us on the last amendments, okay? So then Dan Stacy and Ben Baker walk out and are literally filmed high-fiving each other. Like imagine, and Ben Baker's supposed to be a pastor. Did you know that? I think Dan Stacy is too. So imagine this. You are supposedly men of God, representatives of the people, and you decide that you're going to sabotage the will of your own people, your own constituents.
That took an entire day, drove from all parts of the state.
Well, technically 3 days, because that was the third convention. That was the third meeting. Caucus, county caucus, congressional district, and then the convention. So you took 3 days, 115 counties worth of amendments. You decided they weren't good enough for you.
That's the level of disrespect that they have.
The charlatans.
And then to rejoice about it.
Right. Well, then what happens after that? So then they're still not satisfied. Then some jackleg in Jefferson County decides that he's a part of the establishment, right? Challenge our delegate slate, right? And then gets the GOP
5 days before the Republican
National GOP committee
convention.
They disqualify us because of what our own people told them. And so our own people tell them that we didn't do it the right way and so on. So we, the people, had to go back. And again, shout out to Kobe Collins for this because he stood in the gap for us. But we had to go back, right, and get affidavits signed by as many different patriots that were there as possible that voted saying that this is the way it went and so on. So we had to go to a notary and get this done.
There was over 300 affidavits
submitted the affidavits, and then the day before, the appeal committee overturned it in our favor, and our delegates got reinstated.
The National Convention Committee
best thing that ever happened
had
to
an
us.
appeal hearing.
Yeah.
It was the only one they had this year.
Yeah.
Last year.
The best thing that's ever happened to us. Because why? Because the good people of Missouri, who don't think their Republican representatives are the snakes that they are, found out firsthand. So what happened? They got some victory, they got some blood in their mouth, and they got some victory again, right? And now what has happened is, let's go to this next slide, Josh. This is exactly what's going on in Missouri. Missouri is in the throes of a cold civil war with the Missouri Republican Party. And the only people that don't realize it are the establishment. They are literally just kind of like, no, they're not important. We can ignore them, whatever. It's not a big deal. And the reality is we are coming from them. We're coming for them. We obviously showed our numbers at the convention itself, and that's just getting started. And guess what? Since the convention, we've all been organized and still in touch with each other to this day. Right? A lot of the topic and information that I get for our shows will always be coming from the grassroots. So we will strive to be the voice of the grassroots. Now, granted, there's a lot more great voices out there too. Like Hit Christian's got a fantastic Substack, Shield Maiden. We got the Show Me Sentinel. We've got Patriots with Grit. We've got the Sheridan Beacon. We've got Dusty Blue Show. Devin Duval show. We've got so many different people working, right? And it's absolutely fantastic. And so the thing that they don't quite understand, and that they being the enemy, is that we're organized, we're pissed off, and we're coming for you because we understand the actual severity of the situation. We know how close we came to losing our republic. We know how far away this government has been from the republic. We know how bad of a job our Republicans, right, in name only, have done for this state, and we're done. We made the mistake, right, of trusting you. No more. No more. So now that's what this whole show is really about, is to narrate this civil war as it happens, as we go to victory, right? And to raise up an army of you, right? Not of them, of people like you. You don't need their axiom, their strategist, right? You don't need the consultants. You don't need the big donor money. You need a platform to speak your values, and you need encouragement and votes, right? We're going to raise people up. We're going to raise citizen journalists up all over the state. We're going to raise not just citizen journalists, but like teaching citizens how to do journalism. In other words, how to audit a budget, right? How to do records requests, how to stay in front of things, the things to look for, why to look for them, and so on. And we'll elevate your voices as much as we can. But the only way we're going to do this is if we create a decentralized network of the right-minded people fighting for their own goals. We don't look to control any of this. We want to raise as many decentralized individuals up as possible, give them a platform, give them an opportunity, and watch you all change this state, because it's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much to ask. You get up, you're a politician, you get up and you say that you're going to do something, and the people believe you.
Right.
And you get elected, and just do it.
It's that simple. It really is that simple.
Now, from our perspective, it's that simple. Now, we know that there's inner workings going on. We have a name for it, the deep state. And there's deep state players, but we have to find a way. And I truly believe that some of these people get in power, and they get elected to their position, and they really don't know how dark it is.
Right.
And they don't know the powers that be that that can manipulate and threaten and blackmail and extort.
Yeah.
And
they also just don't even have the spine sometimes. They don't realize, because a lot of the times they'll go out, the recruiters will go out and they'll find the squishy ones. You know what I mean?
True. And the ones that aren't afraid to lie to everybody's face.
Oh, yeah, the ones who like clout.
On the
ones
stump.
who like, the ones who like the information. And the thing is, too, is if you're not smart enough, I don't want to say that. That's not fair. If you are not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Bold?
If you haven't been burned enough. Like when the consultants start telling you, like with Dusty Blue, we had a great conversation. He was talking about, the consultants, they told him he was being lambasted and character assassination his entire time running for school board, right? And he kept saying, I want to defend this. I want to go out and defend myself and blah, blah, blah. Well, Axiom, his buddies, his consultants at the time were like, don't say anything. Don't do that, right? Just shh.
Don't ruffle feathers.
Don't do that. Don't ruffle. Be weak. Be weak. Everybody loves weakness, right? He lost by 7 votes. 7 votes. But you know what it did? It pissed him off enough to start his own show, and he's going to be the biggest thorn in their side this coming year because he lives very close to the Capitol, and he has all the time in the world to be down there.
Very nice.
Yeah. So.
Very nice. Sounds like somebody we all need to get behind and support. And
I'll actually be on a live with him tomorrow at 6:30
cool.
p.m. Yeah.
How do people get to see that? Go to your Facebook page?
So it's he shared it off of Facebook, but yeah, there is a Facebook event. I think we're going to be on YouTube and Facebook, if I'm correct. But anyways, okay. So now what we want to do is we want to kind of bring you into an introduction to the swamp, okay? Because there's a lot of them that have moved out, thank God, but unfortunately, there's a lot of them that have moved back in, and leadership positions are the most important. So if you would, Jay Willie, if you would go to the slide for me. Let me introduce you to some of the most pronounced swamp creatures in the Senate, okay? So if you look over to the, I don't know if this is your left or right. This is my left. I'm looking at it. It's Senator Mike Searpoint. Okay, this guy, me and him got into it from the very beginning. I probably should have sued him for defamation, but, I took it easy on you, buddy. Anyways, so this guy is a complete clown. What you'll understand, what you'll notice is when the session goes through, it will always be the same people voting the same way with Democrats, right? They'll
Right.
always do that. You will also find that there are people who feign to be conservatives, like Mary Elizabeth Coleman right down here, right? They'll feign to be conservatives, and then when it comes down to the most important things to get done, they'll kill it.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Coleman, is the reason why you guys have Amendment 3. She's the reason why you guys have Amendment 3. And the reason for that is because she had an IP reform bill that it was actually in the name of Ben Brown as a sponsor. I love Ben Brown. You'll see him on the next slide as a champ. It was taken, if I understand it correctly, by Cindy O'Loughlin and given over to Mary Elizabeth Coleman to be the sponsor. Well, that means you carry the bill, you do everything, with that bill, so on, right? Well, they were getting on IP reform. IP reform is the initiative petition reform. What that would have done was it would have raised the threshold to changing our Constitution, right? When it comes to somebody getting, signatures, saying, I want this amendment to be proposed, and then being voted on. The United States Constitution takes 3/4, right, of each house, or 2/3 of each house, and then 3/4 of all the states to pass something to change our Constitution because it's that important. Yeah. Missouri is a joke, 50% plus one. See, everybody's like, oh, look at Florida, how they demolished it, right? How they didn't even come close. We actually beat Florida's count as far as who was against it and who was for it, but Florida had a higher threshold. They had 60%. Right? To change their constitution. This isn't just a simple statute. This is the foundational law that our legislature operates off of. Right? Well, so in the last few days, in the last few days of session, the Democrats are filibustering. No big deal. We have a supermajority, guys. Don't ever let them tell you that they need a thing from the Democrats. That's a ball-faced lie. We have a supermajority in the Senate and the House, and we have an executive that is a Republican. So they're lying to you if they ever use the Democrats as a reason to not do something. So anyways, they were filibustering. Well, there's this thing called the previous question, and as a procedural move, it's called a PQ. Sometimes they call it the nuclear option because it can blow up the Senate. Who cares? But the point is there's debate. Somebody motions for the PQ. It takes, I think, like 2/3 of the Senate to vote in favor of it in order for it to pass. And basically what it does is kill the discussion, jump back to the previous question that they were filibustering for, and then make a vote. Right? Okay. So IP reform only needed one more vote, one more third reading and a vote. Cindy O'Loughlin who was the floor majority leader, who is now the pro tem, right? Okay. Floor majority leader, horrible. She's worse than her haircut, right? I mean, that's some legit truth, okay? Anyways, so they just needed to motion it on the floor one more time. The most important priority in the Republican Party for the past 6 years, okay? We had the opportunity to do it, knowing that the most grotesque abortion amendment was coming down the line. Okay, so instead of they gain all the signatures. Okay, they gain all the signatures. Instead of Mary Elizabeth Coleman taking that PQ signature sheet to the leadership and then motioning for the previous question, right? She grabs it off of Ben Brown's desk, right? Goes and takes it, and then the next thing you know, she's on the intercom and they're motioning for it to be sent back to committee. Well, if anybody knows anything about the procedure, okay, it's read once, right, and then read the second time, and then referred to committee. Okay. The committee is where it goes through and gets refined, and then it either comes out of the committee saying yes, we should do this, or we shouldn't, and then based off of that, and there may be some amendments added or whatever. That's the perfection time frame. It comes out, and then you vote on it, and it either passes or it doesn't, right? All right. So it had already gone through that process. And even though we had the numbers to kill the PQ, or to kill the filibuster with the PQ and vote on it and pass it, right? She decides to scrap the PQ and send it back to committee 2 days left in session. She killed it. She procedurally destroyed the bill. And this lady on her website says that she's a proven fighter, conservative, and mother, that she is all about the pro-life and everything else. This lady sacrificed the blood of the unborn. Okay, when we already had it banned in Missouri. We had it banned in Missouri, the first state in the union to destroy the altars of Baal, right? And this lady was like, no, let's rebuild them real quick. And not only that, let's rebuild them with gold, right? And so now this lady who says she's a Republican, says she's a conservative, right? She's got this donor named Rex Sinkfield, one of the most biggest mega donors in the state. And you know what? I don't care about these mega donors. You know why? Because if I offer you money and you don't take it, I have no power over you. Yeah. Right? True. So, Rex Sinkfield, do what you do. I don't care. People like you, Mary Elizabeth Coleman, you're gutless, right? And then it was wild. Now, I don't know, but just right after this happened, session closes in May. In July, they put a down payment on and buy a house, $2.1 million. I think they bought it for $1 million, called the Nabisco Mansion. Funny enough, it's outside of the district that she represents in St. Louis, and it's less than a mile away from Rexingfield. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
it's interesting how this stuff, I don't know if they bought anything for her. I don't know. But why did she move outside of her district? Why did she get the money, or why did she decide to do that after the session, right? And why is she living outside of her constituents, right? It's just a bunch of chicanery. She's in it for herself, right? So anyways, Lincoln Huff. So Senator Cindy O'Loughlin, she's the one who decided that she wanted to try and get rid of our man, Bill Eigel, right? She said last session she was willing, okay, to vote to remove him. And then she said she would have to exchange some stuff with the Democrats because that's the way things do it. But she said she was willing, right? Yeah. This lady is abhorrent. She's an Axiom puppet too. Her handler is Aaron Baker. And they never get anything done. I mean, how do you have a supermajority and you never get anything of substance done? And then Lincoln Ho down there, they say his name's Lincoln Huff, but I think it's Ho, from what I understand and what I hear the rumors in the Capitol. But the point being is, this guy literally has the worst conservative voting record in the history of Missouri. Wow. And he gets all the chair committee positions and all this other stuff. He got boosted up to run for lieutenant governor. Thank God he got absolutely demolished because he's such a he's a horrible guy. Yeah. And then Senator Justin Brown. So this guy is also, he's intermingled with the Blunt family somehow. I don't know what's going on there, but it seems like the consultants from, I don't know if it's still Hush Blackwell that's down there now or whatever, but the Blunt family, Andy Blunt, founded Hush Blackwell with his other cat, and they're now a federal and state lobbying powerhouse. And funny enough, Justin Brown, that Amy Blunt, I think is her name, the sister, she works for them too. She's seen quite often in his office. I don't know why, but he seems to carry the water. So all these goofballs love to vote together. So we'll watch them through this next session. That's why we're setting this up for you, so that you can see with your eyes and understand exactly what we're talking about. And Mary Elizabeth Coleman, she'll pretend to be on the other side until it makes sense for her to jump on again. So these are the swamp creatures. There are many more that have already passed on, and like Caleb Rowden, thank God, and Dave Schatz. But now we're going to move into the champions.
Right.
So from left to right, my favorite, Mike Moon.
Let me back up just for for 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this. How do these guys get in there? Josh, if you can move back to that other slide.
Oh, that's me.
Sorry. Yeah. How do they get in?
Well, first and foremost, they get in because of consulting firms that have so much pull already. So, like, what we have to understand is no one ever comes to us, right? They go to the big money donors, and then what the donors do, they put out ads and they put out mailers. And then the Republican Party, from the committee levels, right? That's why it's so important to get involved. Yeah. They then endorse the specific individuals. And now, right, all of us who trust the Republican Party, right, and we're like, oh, at least it's an R behind their name. Okay, fine. Yeah. That's why. Because the good people don't get the funding and the resources because they're good. And then the compromised or the comparable or the weak will always get propped up by the consultants, the donors. They're the ones that run everything.
Do the county committees vote on these guys?
Oh, so they don't technically vote, but they have power. Right. So in other words, if let's say Justin Brown was our guy, or Mary Elizabeth Coleman, or any of these people, if we, as a committee, decided we were never going to support them again, we would do what's called a censure, right? And when you censure someone, you say, we will never support you again. We put it out on a public record, right? So you would come together, you would put a resolution together for censorship saying we're not going to do this because of all these different reasons, right? And then it's done. And then it's published.
So
and then
one committee, one county committee could put something together and then share that with the rest of the counties, correct?
Absolutely. It's happening actually on a mass basis. I mean,
we're going to talk about something similar to that, I think, coming up here, right? So that's why it's important to get involved. That's why we have to fill all these seats. You got to make sure those seats are filled in your county, guys. Go once a month and make sure you can, get on the ballot. If the seat's not filled, you get on the ballot, and you're in.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. And even if the seat's filled, it's time to fight. We're going to teach you guys. Guys, we got 2 years. 2 years, okay? In 2 years, in 2026 election, we will be voting for the new committee chairs. I'm telling you guys, this is when we will take over the party. We are going to run this show right? And make sure that you guys are educated. We're not only going to run the show, we're going to go and do workshops all across the state. We're going to do in-person workshops free of charge, right? So that you guys can come in and we're going to teach you how to do everything you need to do as far as being a committee man or woman, or having the skill set and the resources and the tools to hold your government accountable.
Well, and to make sure that these people don't get reelected. It's one thing they get up there and they lie and say they're going to do all these things for us the way we want them to do it. But then you go look at their voting record and you see that they're not.
Right.
And so let's not let them get reelected.
Right.
That's our responsibility.
Right. And two, a big
Do you
thing.
think there's cheating going on?
Oh, well, so Allie in the chat, like I just saw, she goes, the reason they keep getting in is because the machines are rigged. And you're
That's
right.
it.
You're
We gotta
absolutely
get
right.
rid of the machines.
Let's not even pretend. We're not going to play that game, okay?
No.
We will never play that game on this show that the machines are okay. We will never play that game. We need hand count, hand mark, paper ballots.
Easy to do.
And we'll go to
Very
war
easy.
over that. I mean, it is the most important buffer to our constitutional republic.
The vote.
We can do all this work and be rigged and then not get anywhere.
That's always been one of my things that I always
very
talk
true.
about is
Yep.
is how important the vote is. The vote is everything.
Yep.
We want to keep this country beautiful. We want to keep this country moral.
Yes.
We want to keep it safe.
Righteous. Yes. Full
Righteous.
of life and success and beauty. And the wages of sin is death.
That's your only voice.
That's right.
The vote is your only voice.
It's the most critical one. I wouldn't say it's the only one, but it's absolutely the most critical.
It is the most critical one.
Well, and so when you were talking about how do these people get on, so another important thing about the committees, central committees in the counties leading up to the state, whoever that executive committee is for the state, guys, they can decide if that person removes their R or not, right?
Right.
So in other words, if we had a strong chair that was in this committee, right? And that the people were in the resolutions were coming up from the counties to the state saying, hey, we want these people removed. They're not Republicans. Why? Well, because we can look at their voting record objectively and then objectively look at the platform, the Republican platform, and say A plus B does not equal your C or whatever.
So is that something people can do that are watching? They see these guys that we're showing on the screen right now. They see their faces. They know their names now. Is that something they can reach out to the Republican chair and put pressure on him?
Yeah.
To say, hey,
I mean, you could.
These people aren't Republican.
Yeah. Well, so
why are we allowing them to be in our
one
party?
person could absolutely do that. You absolutely have that freedom. The information for Nick Myers, the goofball who, he's a squish. He's not going to do anything. But yes, you could. But the way to make it impactful, the way to make it have weight, because you got to also remember, right? The chair will also be dealing with the other side, whoever the other side is, right? And if they can't justify it, then they won't maybe not look fair. So if the committees start passing resolutions that rise up, now it's the voice of this committee, the voice of this committee, the voice of this committee. That is a representation of that entire county.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the reason we don't understand how this, or we haven't understood how this actual process works. That's why we've lost our voice, because we don't communicate, we don't show up anymore, we don't understand the rules of procedure, we don't understand the importance of public speaking, not just vocally or audibly, but also when it comes to the written word and publishing it in newspapers and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we move over into our
the next slide.
into our great champions.
The champions.
Senate champions. Now, a couple of them are missing from here. Obviously, Mr. Bill Eigel, right? Bill Eigel. I did this as a big, well, I don't want to say that word.
Big shout out.
A big shout out to Bill Eigel and a big bump you to everyone else who stood against him, right? Because you stood against the voice of the people, and most likely because of the machines is the reason why he's not your governor-elect. But it's okay. It's okay. He was a tip of a spear for us, and he created a massive movement. So God bless you, Bill Eigel, for what you did.
We love you, buddy.
Absolutely. Also, we have Senator Moon. Honest to God, probably my favorite individual, because he does not back down, right? So he was the one single-handedly, long story short, Don Karoff was the acting DHS, Department of Health and Senior Services in the state. He's from Illinois, okay? Parson wanted to appoint him as the confirmed, right? So he's in his confirmation hearing. Well, we start doing some digging. Some great people start doing some digging. You know who you are. And come to find out, Don Karoff is directly connected to this lady, his wife, in Illinois. right? Well, they've both in public health for 30 plus years, okay? Bureaucrats through and through, okay? So his wife was instrumental in the first track and trace program for testing as an alternative to quarantining. Guess who put out that paper? Rockefeller Institution. She was actually given a shout out for her work. Then she made sure, I forget the company's name, but she made sure that that company got the contract, right? In order to be the one to control the infrastructure and the application of the track and trace. And what it was, oh, you're sick? Or, oh, someone is sick next to you? That's okay. You're going to just test and we'll track you and trace and make sure where you are. In other words, we will literally put a government tracking device on your phone and follow you everywhere you go. And if you get close to somebody that shouldn't be there, right, we're going to let you know. So, and it was, voluntary, but the reality is when you're a parent, right, and you have the option of you're a parent, you both work, or you're a single parent, you have the option of taking your kid, right, out of daycare, out of school, and leaving them home for 2 weeks, or track and trace, guys. It's just an alternative to quarantining, right? Well, that lady it's Shield T3, that's the company. That lady was instrumental.
What good does that do?
Now, well, guess this. So then Mike Parson buys 4 saliva-based testing kits or saliva-based tests from Washington University, the abortion fellowship in St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
For those tests, sends them out to the state, and then slides old Don Karoff in, right? And guess who else had decided to incorporate in Missouri the same time? Shield T3, the same company that was working in Illinois to do the track and trace program. So we just so happen to have the saliva-based test. We just so happen to have the husband of the lady who implemented it in Illinois, and we just so happen to have the same company incorporating into Missouri for what, right? And so Mike Moon stood in the gap. He actually stood in the gap, was taking information from his staff that were coming from the grassroots continually. And I mean, this was a massive grassroots effort. He stood in the gap and he would not confirm him. And Don Karoff lost his position for a lifetime. Could never come back. It was lifetime banned, right? Wow. And then Parson pitched a fit, said it was because of a couple of men's egos is the reason why it didn't get done, right? And so they lambasted Mike Moon. Dave Schatz took his committee seats for a while until we raised hell, and then he had to give them back to him, right? These people are dogs, man. Wow. Yeah, and remember, guess who gave the saliva-based test money to the Washington U? The NIH, Dr. Fauci.
Oh,
right. But there's nothing going on here, guys. Don't worry, there's nothing going on here. We only have a budget that's 50% ear tab to the federal government. It's not like we're under their thumb. It's not like that was the reason why our children stayed in masks for months and months after we didn't, when I had watched these poor babies get on the bus wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I don't even go down that. Anyways, Mike Moon, amazing man. Thank you, sir, so much for your
thank you, Mike.
Just standing in the gap. Senator Jill Carter, she's been a fighter outside. She primaried a RINO. I think it was actually Sophia Shore, who was her campaign manager, that actually got that win for her. But she's been a staunch supporter, standing in the middle. She's still new to the Senate itself, but we have high hopes for her. Senator Rick Bratton, Marine, and a chief gun rights guy, also pro-life, very good man. Good friend of ours. He actually was on the show. Actually, Mr. Bratton, Senator Bratton, I don't want to call you a friend because I don't want to get you in trouble. Somebody we highly admire. He came on the show last time, and it was a very good conversation. He was the one who taught us that the halls of Jeff City are very, very strong.
I don't think he's afraid of getting in trouble.
I don't think he is either. And then we have Ben Brown. I like Mr. Ben Brown very much. He has been a champion for the people as well. And he's also an MMA fighter and scrappy guy, business owner, entrepreneur. But good guy. He stood in the gap for us. I'm very excited about the man in the middle, Mr. Joe Nicola, absolute fighter. So this man is a pastor. This man is a real pastor, not a 501c3 pastor kind of thing, right? Gotcha. He's a real pastor. He's been leading his flock for a long time. He actually taught his flock the dangers of communism. He actually educated them on what was the most important things to do. Wow. He ran against Mike Searpoint, right? This bald-headed goofball, right? And if it wasn't for the third person to get involved, he would have easily taken it. But he ran again, and he got a Democrat seat, actually, which is fantastic. So he's going to be an absolute champion when it comes to the next session. I am very excited about him being there.
That's awesome.
Okay, so now we talked about the Senate. Let's move on into the House. These guys are so stupid. Senate's a little bit smarter. Josh, can you move my thing maybe? Anyways, we'll get to him last. That's old Ben Baker. So we have in the center of everything here is Mr. Jonathan Patterson. And if you'll notice, he is a senator, or no, I'm sorry, not a senator, a representative for Jackson County. His hometown is Lee's Summit. He served for 7 years. He was the floor majority leader, meaning he controlled pretty much all the legislation that came to the floor. Thank you, Josh. And then he also, he's now running for the speaker. He will tell you that he's already the speaker-elect, except the new House hasn't been sworn in yet, and they have not had an election, so I don't know what he's talking about. But this guy is diabolical. We'll get into him in a little bit more.
The old railroad trick.
Yeah.
Let's just railroad it through. Status quo. This is how we did it. We already elected this guy, even though there's not been an election yet.
So let's go to bottom left corner, Rudy the Rat Veet, okay? This guy, okay, back, I forget who it was who had the bill. It was Angela Romine or somebody like that. Somebody had the bill that was basically, or maybe it was Holly Jones. Forgive me, I don't remember who it was, but they had a fantastic bill about bodily autonomy, right? Not having to get the, if you didn't feel the need to, right? Not only a religious exemption, but a conscientious exemption, because that's American.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice. If I don't want to put this thing into my body, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And you can't make me, right? Well, that was in there. Well, this bill was amazing. It had 40 co-sponsors. I mean, that's a ton of people. If anybody understands, when somebody co-sponsors something, that means they've put their agenda behind it, right? Gotcha. 40 co-sponsors should have been on the floor. But Dean Plocker, the ex-speaker, right? Piece of garbage. He absolutely stopped it. Now, what they did, though, is somebody else brought up a bill that would have been germane. By germane, I mean connecting in the same concept, right? Because bills have to be germane. I can't do a school choice bill and then do something about firearms, right? It's not the same. So they brought up a germane bill, and somebody else brought up an amendment that was basically all the language of that bill that had the 40 co-sponsors, the health freedom bill.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So that was their way of kind of bringing it in.
Yeah.
Right after that amendment was brought up, Rudy Veet stood up and said, I have an amendment to an amendment. Right? So what does that tell you? Well, obviously they knew about it because they caucused, so they planned for it. I have an amendment to an amendment. All this amendment actually does is strike the word conscientious out of it, one word, and then that's it. Because we just really want to get it to what the people want. The people just want an exemption. First of all, why do you take conscientious out? Because they were saying, we were worried about people getting vaccine hesitancy. Who cares? It's not your job. It's not your job to decide things for us or to guard our minds so that we can't do the things we want. It's called censorship, right? So anyways, he gets up and he says, this only strikes one word, really. It's just taking conscientious, but everything else is intact. Well, when you're on the floor like that, because they're in general session, when you're on the floor like that, it's you hear about it and then you make a decision. So that everyone's going off their word, right? So their word is their bond. All right? So they vote in favor of it. Okay, we'll strike conscientious, we'll keep everything else. You know what it ended up striking? 17 pages.
What?
17 pages of the amendment. It utterly
so they
nullified.
lied about what
he completely lied about it. They nullified the entire thing. Wow. So the reason why you don't have health freedom, ladies and gentlemen, is because of Dean Plocker and because of Rudy the Rat Veet. The rat. He's not even worth being called a rhino. He is a rat.
Wow.
He stood up and he lied to every single one of your representatives on the floor.
And he's still in, huh?
Yep, and he did. Of course, that's why he's still in. He got the backing of the money donors, HRCC and everybody else. But that's the reason why he's up on this board.
He needs to go.
Let's jump up to old Jim Murphy. Jim Murphy is an idiot. So I don't say that lightly. Okay. So he's been going off crazy about the whole speaker thing. We'll get into that in a little bit. But there's him and Van Schmucka. I don't know. Dean Van Schwacka. Schwick. I don't know how to say his name. I'm going to get caught on that. Jim Murphy. Okay. This guy is legacy RINO all day long. If you look at his legislation, so if you ever go to these people's house.mo.gov, if you go to these people's landing pages on the legislature, you can see the bills they've sponsored.
Okay.
Right? Very good key identifier of what they're actually doing. You'll see all these corporate type bills from these type of people.
You should put a link.
Yeah, well, yeah, so we'll get better at that.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to see all of the bills, and you'll realize, oh, these bills are corporate interest bills. These bills aren't people. makes sense. And I'll give you an example when we look at Justin Sparks. But so Representative Jim Murphy, I'm going to show you on the next slide something about him. But all of his stuff is garbage. And then he's doing this big to-do about Sparks. He says, this is what's so funny. So he says that Missouri Firearms Coalition, do you know who that is? See that dude on there, Aaron, I forget his last name, Aaron Dorr, something like that. Anyways, awesome guy, American Firearms Coalition, standing shoulder to shoulder with all of us, right? It's a great dude. Awesome. He came out in favor of Sparks. Jim Murphy comes out and tries to attack him on X, right? And he says, look, he's like, these are operatives from California, right? Well, you know what he was looking at? Yeah. He was looking at the address of Substack on the post.
Oh my gosh.
The post showed that it came from Substack, because somebody actually took Missouri Firearm Coalition, put the information into a Substack, and then reposted it, right? And then he sees the thing at the bottom. I don't know if he's just dumb or somebody else is dumb too and told him about it. I mean, he's dumb for sure because he did it, right? But he's like, oh, look at this. This guy is a liberal California operative. Oh my gosh. Right? But that's how stupid these people are. And then he's like, but trust me, I'm telling you everything else is important about why Sparks can't be speaker, right? So anyways, so we go from there, and then Mr. O'Brien, James O'Brien, said Murphy is one of the biggest idiots I've ever interacted with.
Wow.
It's so true. Dean Van Schwach, this guy went on a tangent. I was going to go find his tweets, but I was like, this guy's, I don't know. I don't want to make him get his blood pressure up. I don't think he could handle it. So Cowboy over here decided that if Sparks gets in, because Sparks had this crazy idea that he was going to allow all representatives to bring their bills to the floor and then discuss them based off merits, right? And so this guy says, we're going to get red flag gun laws and gun banning. Oh, it's going to be horrible. And we're like, whoa, wait. So because the Democrats are allowed to talk about their bills, you're telling me that the supermajority of Republicans are secretly wanting red flag gun laws.
Yeah.
And they're going to vote for them.
Right.
You're an idiot, bro. Your hat's, I think his hat's too tight. You know what I'm saying? Because you can see how red his face is. So it's probably, you probably need to get a bigger hat, man. Probably, or just shave your head. Just deal with it. Sorry, dude, I hate these people so much. Okay.
We don't hate it.
Oh, I dislike these people so much. You know what? I just watched a Tuttle Twins episode when it was talking about you can judge people by their actions, by their merit. I'm judging you all by your merits. Nothing to do with the way you look.
Yeah,
the way
we just
you look
want
comes
you to
in
represent
afterwards.
us.
Yes.
If you don't like what he's saying, don't do the things that you did. It's not that hard. It's very simple.
Yes, you're right, Jen. So Jen is saying that the people that were elected up here in 2018, which is Ben Baker, Rudy Veit, Jim Murphy, Schwack, we've got a little bit more time to rail on him, but they're all going to run for Senate seats, and they're all going to lose. We're going to make sure. Yeah, we're going to make sure, for sure. By then, we're going to make
That's
sure.
why we're here,
We're
guys.
just going to roast you guys.
We just want to inform you guys, and
we're so much more versatile and flexible when it comes to making stuff happen. We know how to make content. We're creative, right? We're networking. We're driven by our passion.
Citizen journalists.
You guys suck, dude. You're going to be absolutely eaten alive. Welcome to the new revolution. So last person, Ben Baker, right? So this guy, man, where do I start? So he thinks he's the best in the world. He loves to call the grassroots Christians that go down to the Capitol. What's that? South Baptist? What's that? Southern Georgia? That Baptist church that's always crazy and far lunatic fringe. Oh yeah. What's it called? Westboro Baptist Church. So he has the audacity, being a pastor, has the audacity to call Christians who come up and want actual real reform based on God's word, Westboro Baptist people. I mean, what a slanderous tongue to have, right? Yeah. Slanderous, viper, okay? Not only that, the guy is the other side of the coin who actually screwed us or sabotaged us at the convention. It was him and Dan Stacy. That guy right there, remember his face. Now he's going around saying like, hey guys, I'm proud to announce I'm the new chairman of the Doge Committee for Missouri. Hey, Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy, check us out. We're doing like you. You guys doubled the budget. Shout out to Allie Gray for putting this on blast. You guys doubled the budget under the last executive term.
Yeah, and
You don't even know
Missouri's
what
budget,
Doge means.
We have what?
2-1 compared to Illinois. 2-1. We have a $51 billion budget. They have a $53 billion. We have 6 million people. They have 12 million people. We are beating Chicago.
We spend twice as much with half as many people.
Right. 2-1. And what are we getting done? How are your roads?
Going?
How are your roads doing, guys? When's the last time you enjoyed the drive home?
Yeah.
God almighty.
Man.
So these guys are absolute clowns, right? And, Ben Baker, he thought he was, amazing. After the thing, this is what's so bad about him. When they're getting attacked by everything, because people are so pissed off and upset, they just, dude, tip that chin back a little bit more. Tip it back a little bit more. Let me know if it rains. I don't want to drown, right?
Yeah.
But that's what they do. They are so narcissistic. And they will never, watch them, man. You guys get on X and start understanding this. You will watch them. You will talk to them. You will say something substantive. Hey, why did you do what you did the last time with this bill? And you'll be like, oh, look at this guy. Doesn't even know how to spell, there.
Yeah.
Complete misdirection.
Yeah.
Say it like Nick Schroyer. I can't stand this guy. I know some of you guys think he's a conservative champion. He's not. He's an opportunist. He's a prick, right? He's got a pretty beard, and he loves the fact. Every time that I bring up his beard, he's always like, oh, why are you so concerned about me? So when I brought up the fact of how he betrayed people with Amendment 3, not this past one, but the marijuana one, not because of cannabis, right? Not because of being pro or anti-marijuana at all, because the amendment said it created a chief equity officer, the office of a chief equity officer in our Constitution. Guys, that is the antithesis of a republic.
Yeah.
It's rule of law, equal opportunity under the law. If you have a chief equity officer who is just deciding one group over the other gets more opportunity than you do, that is absolutely opposite of the rule of law. Yeah. Right? And so when I questioned him on it, he had a narrative, he had a talking point, gave it back, and then I said, okay, that's great. Now what about this, and this? After 2 questions, then it was, oh, you're just an operative trying to disenfranchise the people and split the party. I said, whoa. I just wanted answers. Now all of a sudden you're attacking me, right? Yeah. And the thing is, these guys are opportunists. So he will vote conservative as long as it's what his paymasters want him to do, right? But do not get it twisted. The guy is not there to serve you. The guy is there because he loves to be looked at. He carries a freaking mirror around with him in his back pocket.
Seriously?
No.
I wouldn't be surprised. He probably spends a lot of time in the bathroom.
He's so pissed. So I bring it up, and then he asked me why did I why is this guy so? I told him his beard could never cover up his weak chin because I know he loves his beard so much. And he goes, why is this guy always so concerned with the way I look?
So you want to move on to?
Yes.
Yeah, let's move on to talk about the good guys.
Yes, so
the House champions.
Yeah, well, so first,
did you want to touch on something else?
I do want to touch on something real quick. Okay. So this right here. So this is just an example of a bill that has been brought up by Jim Murphy. Okay, so it's HB 116 establishes the Media Literacy and Critical Thinking Act. Guys, anytime the government is going to tell you how to think, watch out. Yeah. Right? So it equips students with tools for critical media consumption, promotes safe, ethical digital behavior, develop and test a scalable model for statewide implementation, lay the groundwork for state-level media literacy standards. Okay. DESE, which is the Department of Education and Secondary Education, which is our state-run Department of Education, okay, is the one delegated with the authority to create the pilot program. They're going to select diverse schools. Okay. Right. And then they're going to be the ones to basically come up with how it needs to be done. And what's wild is you never want these kind of things because this is a control mind think, if you will, or whatever.
Right.
This lady right here, Carla Esslinger, she was one of the greatest RINOs in the Senate. She's one of the ones that have left. And look where she is now. Where is she? She is the Public Education Commissioner. She is over the entire, she's the one under the school board that does everything else, right? She's going to be the one implementing the policy. And guys, she has been lockstep with the agenda from the very beginning. This is who we have in our executive, guys. We have so much work to do. So much work to do. But this is just an example. Jim Murphy has this bill, right? This is what it's supposed to do. It's about diversity and inclusion, making sure that, you can spot misinformation. What are they going to call misinformation? Everything we say, right? Not everything that the people are saying. Remember, the school who is doing these crazy grooming things and whatnot to your children are going to be the ones to come up with a program to teach your children
Filling
how
all
to
their
think.
heads with misinformation.
Right. It's going to completely poison them. That's exactly what they're doing, is getting in front of it.
Yeah,
so
the
anyways,
Department of Education has to go.
Absolutely. Now, just one last thing for this.
They are at the core.
Why do they have to go? Read those stats.
Okay, so we've got 57% of students who scored below the proficient level in English, language arts, being able to talk. 61% of students soared below the proficient level of mathematics, two of the most core things that we need to know. And then science, you got to trust the science.
Trust it.
Trust the science. So apparently, 38% of students are trusting the science and not learning it, because 62% of students scored below the proficient level in science.
And this is DESI's stats. Now, DESI didn't give you the below, they gave you the above, right? So they gave the opposite. They're like, oh, look, 43% of students scored above proficient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
It's like, you guys are sick.
Failing
grades.
Like
Every single one of these are
horribly,
failing grades.
horribly
This is
failing.
your Republican-ran executive branch controlling the education of our children. And not only that, they're also in charge of like rehabilitation and stuff. So rehab programs for people, right, when they get
gosh.
older, right, and secondary education going in.
People that are already struggling, they're in charge of them too.
I just got word too that they're taking in daycares now.
Oh boy.
Shuttling daycares up under. So if you want to be licensed to be a daycare, now you got to go through DESI.
What kind of coloring books are they going to have in those classes?
There you go, buddy. There you go.
Yeah.
So, but this is the consolidation. This is what's happening, and we have to be vanguards for this. Okay. So let's go ahead. We're going to get into the champs. Wow. There's not a lot of them, but there's enough.
We got 5.
The dude in the middle.
On here anyway.
Representative Justin Sparks. Fantastic individual. The only one with the stones, as Ben Franklin would say, to rise up and to challenge the speaker, right? And the reason he did it, he gives his explanations, even though everybody's saying, oh, you voted for him in the preliminary of Patterson. Yes, but that's before Amendment 3 passed, and that's before Patterson publicly said it was going to be the law of the land, and they weren't going to do anything about it, even though his entire platform is about being pro-life, right? So if people don't know how politics work, politics is a battle. We don't just lay down, oh yeah, that's fine. No, we fight the system, right? We don't just lay down and say that's the way it is, especially when something was passed based on lies and deception.
Right.
So Justin Sparks, phenomenal guy. Maisie Christensen, she used to be Maisie Boyd when she got elected. She turned to Christensen when she got married to Mr. Christensen. Fantastic young lady out there in Grundy County. One of my favorite people for sure. And then these new individuals I'm actually very excited about, because I was told about them through our network of grassroots patriots, Mr. Burt Whaley, Mr. Bob Titus, and Miss Deanna Self, right? You can see representative-elect, as well as Burt Whaley as well.
Nice.
So these individuals are coming in strong. They understand the call and where we're at. This will lead us into the speaker conversation. So you've met the players, some of the main players for the swamp in the Senate, and the good players in the Senate, and then the swamp creatures in the House. And then, of course, the same ones in the swamp in the House, too.
Yes.
Anyway, so Sparks for Speaker, this is where we're at right now. This is what's going on. This is a blessing from God, whether we win this or not, right? This is going to be a vehicle that drives the people into action like never before. This is going to identify our champions, right? And give us the opportunity to really, really push forward.
And this is next Wednesday.
This is Wednesday. The vote is Wednesday. Even though your representatives will tell you that John Patterson has already been elected, even though he were elected in an informal meeting or a caucus meeting without the new reps, right? So the previous reps, right?
Yeah.
Burt Whaley and then Deanna Self, they were not a part of that vote, right? And so when they get sworn in, then the new House will then choose the new speaker, okay?
Okay.
So anyways, Justin Sparks. Now I want to just go over here and we're just going to look at some of his stuff. So there's this site that you guys can go to called Leginate.com. It could be called Leginate, but I think it's legislature, right? So Leginate. And it gives scores based on whether you're Democrat or Republican. And boy, when you get on there and you start seeing the scores of like us as a whole, right? The nation as a whole. This is happening everywhere, right? The average score on John Birch Society, okay? It's a fantastic group of constitutional conservatives. The average score for Republicans is 57 across the nation. Wow. State and federal. It's a disease.
It's by design.
Yes, it's a disease. But anyways, he scored a 92. The only one who scored higher, Maisie Boyd. Good old 99.
Wow.
Yeah, can't say enough good things about Maisie. Anyways,
That's awesome.
Scored a 92 for his conservative voting record. And then look up here. Here's some of his sponsored bills, right? So the first one, 2621. HB just means House bill. Prohibits medical schools from providing abortion-specific training and partnering with out-of-state entities to provide such training. Do you know who that actually targets the most? Washington University, right? They're a monolith. The fact that he had the nerve to file that legislation shows you that he is not a panderer. He is not a faker, because that will get a bullseye on you immediately. HB 2694 prohibits the use of fetal organs or tissue resulting from elective abortions for medical, scientific research, experimental, or therapeutic purposes, or any other use. In other words, leave our children alone. If our children have lost their lives, you put them in the ground.
Yeah.
You don't use them.
Yeah.
And to think that's why isn't Shoak's sponsor list like this, or why isn't Murphy's, or why aren't any of these other people like this? Why is it always about corporate interests and not about the people and not about preserving morality and righteousness? And then you see the ones down there. He proposes a constitutional amendment regarding the right to life. That's HJR 89. The difference between HJR and HB, House Joint Resolution. A resolution will be something that is always put to the vote of the people, like the amendments are.
Okay.
HB or SB is going to be Senate bill or House bill. That's just legislation, statutes being proposed and passed, right?
Gotcha.
And then the last one creates provisions relating to abortion and assistance to pregnant women and families. Sparks came in and said he was a pro-life guy. He's not running from it. Look at the bills he passed, or the bills he filed, right? So
yeah,
let's go.
That's how we know who these people are, and that's how we know what their true colors are.
Now let's look at the ones that the establishment and even a lot of the good representatives.
What's the second way? The other way is how they vote on this stuff is
Correct.
one, and then the other way is their sponsored bills.
Correct.
Okay.
So this one. So John Patterson, and Josh, you don't have to move that. It's fine. His county is Jackson County. It's important to note in the next slide, but you'll see why. Okay. Look, he scored a 67 for his abysmal voting record, according to Leginate.com. Only Republican to vote against the IP reform in 23 and 24. What does that tell you? The only one to vote for it now says it's the law of the land, right? Only one of two Republicans to vote against the SAFE Act, which keeps children safe from gender mutilation. Guess what? He's a doctor. He's like, well, I want to respect, parent or doctor patient confidentiality, right? Well, what about your first Hippocratic oath? Do no harm.
Yeah.
Wow. You got a moral compass that is broken. All right. So he also helped negotiate and accepted a 4-year sunset on both the Men and Women's Sports Act and the SAFE Act. So the SAFE Act is one above, keeping children safe from gender mutilation, okay? And then men and women's sports. That's keeping men out of women's sports. They were like, all the legislators were like, look, we got this big win. We got this big win. And then you look at it and it's like, oh, this big win goes away in 4 years. So in other words, in 4 years, it will be okay to do gender mutilation on our children. It will be okay for men to get back into women's sports. If they bring it back up. But has anybody been talking about it at all? No, it's just a win. And do you think this stuff's going to come back up for a conversation, right? The only reason that kind of stuff got passed, right, was because of the outcry. We thought everybody thinks it's done.
We need to keep our finger on that pulse for sure.
Right. You're absolutely right. So think about that. You negotiate a sunset clause for 4 years. It's horrible people, man. That's conniving, right? They go out and tell you they won, and then in reality, in 4 years' time, right, from the time your kid goes from college or high school to college, it's nope, just kidding. Now your kid's coming into college, and the boys are in her bathroom and in her locker room.
We're gonna have to make sure that gets back on the floor then.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, hopefully there's just an overriding, like these people. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. He also publicly insinuated, and not really insinuated, he even kind of
We
said
can't
it.
hope on that.
Right, you're right. We can't. Publicly insinuated that an unjabbed American shouldn't be considered for organ transplants.
We should be the only ones that could get.
I think so, right? And then the publicly stated,
Aren't they like? Hasn't it been said that they're not allowing people that have been vaccinated to give blood now?
I've heard.
Yeah. How about people that have been vaccinated? Are they allowed to give organs too, kidneys and?
I don't know, but I'm damn sure not going to getting any transfusions.
Yeah.
And he also publicly has stated that Amendment 3 would be the law of the land. So look here, guys. He's a 67, okay? He's the only Republican to vote against IP reform in 3 and 4, which Republican values, guys, means Republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution says the federal government will guarantee to the states a Republican form of government. This guy is anti-Republican form of government as a Republican. It's wild.
Wow.
Right? So he's done all this stuff, and everybody's like, but listen, he's really good at what he does. That's their reasoning. He's
to
really
bring that
good
up.
at being the guy.
I hate to bring up his ethnicity, but he looks like he's from China.
I don't know where he's from, dude.
I
But
don't know
he's a hometown lead summit, so we won't go that far, right? We won't go that far.
Okay,
But
well.
his hometown is Lee Summit, right? He is Jackson County. Now look at this. Jackson County resolution. This is why it's important to be a part of your committees. This resolution is from the Jackson County Central Committee Republicans, right? The ones who are the elected base for John Patterson, okay? They represent the voice of his own constituents, and they all denied him, okay, and supported Justin Sparks as speaker because of Patterson's lack of Republican values.
So this is what I was talking about earlier that we were going to bring up, that when you go to the committee, guys, these are the types of resolutions that you don't even have to be a chair. You can submit a resolution for the committee to look at, correct?
Yes, absolutely. If you need the way the rules of procedure work, the parliamentary rules are, you motion one. Like, so if me and you we're both committee members. I stand up and I say, I move to introduce this resolution and supporting Justin Sparks and denouncing John Patterson. You stand up, you go, I second it. Now, according to the rules, it has to come to the floor and it has to be discussed and then voted on.
Okay.
So yeah,
But I don't, to be able to at least go there and say, hey, I think we need a resolution.
Yeah, you can. Well, so you can go through your
could
elected officials just the
suggest
same
that
way.
from your-
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So
the same way you
that's
should
why
be
it's
able to
so
go to your
important.
representatives now and offer them legislation ideas.
Right.
It's the same way you can go to you can't vote, but you absolutely can offer it up and ask somebody to get on board with it. But all you need is two people, and you can do some serious damage. You can bring up things and make them face it, get people on record who is for and who's against. But Jackson County, the man's own district, the man's own committee, censored him and supported Justin Sparks. What does that tell you? And guess what? The representatives are still ignoring us like we're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, that's the part that makes me so mad.
Well, and it's like, so somebody was talking about before how they were upset because Justin was going around to constituents, to the actual districts, and talking to people directly, right? And they were like, well, if he was running for a statewide position, that's fine. But that same person was talking about how every decision that they make in the state isn't about just their constituents, but the entire state.
Right.
Right? Well, why did Justin do that? Right? Unconventional times call for unconventional measures. Did he not know that they were going to say the exact same thing they're already saying to him with their own constituents trying to ask them to support him? No, it's too late. No, you should have done this in a better way.
Right.
No, we're not going to get anything done because of it. No, John's good at what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. We're in the middle of a war for the soul of our
towing
nation.
the line for the establishment.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're in the war of towing the line for the nation, right? And this is what these people want to do. So here's where we're at. So we have this situation going on. Courage versus cowardice. There's 55 incoming freshman reps. Not all of them are Republican, but majority of them are. This is coming now. This is coming from representatives. This is not coming from my opinion. This is conversations being had. They're all afraid. Not all of them. Majority are afraid. Why? They say they've been down there. He goes, you ain't never been down there, man. You've never seen the way the system works. The machine is alive and well, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, no, I get it, man. He goes, and if we do this, our agenda, they won't let us pass anything. But this is the thing, guys. Do you really think that they're going to let you pass anything that's antithetical to their agenda? And don't you know the main principle of all of our agenda, the grassroots, the people, is the opposite of what they want done?
Right.
So if I got a guy coming in with special interest like John Patterson, okay, and he's going to bring in an agenda, would I be better off as a people, right, as a collective, if nothing got done or if some of his agenda got done?
Yeah, some.
Nothing, right?
Oh, sorry. Nothing. Other guy.
Nothing, right?